So we've seen lots of remakes actually of this story. So what inspired you to take these characters and do a prequel? Were you fans of the book, play, movie, all of the above?
Well, I'll set it up for Harriet, because what happened was that I began to ask, what is it about Dangerous Liaison that has made it sort of continue to be part of the sort of landscape of modern culture, even 300 years after the book was published? What is it about the book that endures? And what could we explore in television over time with characters that you couldn't do in a single movie or a play? And it struck me that, you know, at the core of it, there are two things. One is it's a love story, albeit a rather fractured and sort of tragic in one sense love story, but it's also the story of a woman trying to navigate a man's world. And that's as relevant today as it was back in the latter part of the 18th century. And that was what I came to Harriet with.
Well, I was, you know, obviously just to work with Collin and to know, you know, he's such a brilliant man in this industry. If he was excited about this project, then I really wanted to find a way to do it. But I did think, as you said, there are so many adaptations, and you feel Christopher Hampton's was such a seminal piece of work that it was so true to the book. Cruel Intentions, obviously, we have a brilliant contemporary version. So I wanted to make sure there was something really that felt sustaining to say, and that would survive that brilliant luxury of time with TV, but also the scrutiny of such smart viewers with so much choice. So I looked again at the novel, and it was when rereading it, this one particular letter really stood out to me, letter 81, which was from the Marquise de Merteuil. And it's kind of this extraordinary sort of mission statement where she talks about how she has created herself, and that essentially she's built a facade. She is a construct, and she's done it to negotiate, navigate, and survive in this world. And my interpretation of that was, wow, the need for all of this kind of really feels like she's not necessarily from that world. And that was the spark for me, the idea that maybe there was a whole landscape to explore of her past, of how she gets to be that character and gets to come into this world that she's clearly not at ease with. And I said to Collin, maybe what we have here is a prelude rather than an adaptation, and therefore we can use the brilliant novel as our inspiration, and season one really does deliver the world of the novel, the seductions, the wit, the humor, the schemes, but we really bring the yeah. And I think what we have with ours is more danger, because the stakes are so much higher, because we are at a point before what these two extraordinary characters do is play games. We are at the point when all these things matter, and they're driven by, as you know from where you've got to, by past events. So that was exciting. We were both thinking, actually, maybe this is the way into the show.
What I love about this one, and you sort of touched on it, is how the female gaze is so strong. In rewatching the original, how the male gaze is actually, it's almost jarring just because of how distinct it is. What were the steps you took to ensure that these characters were portrayed in a more equitable way?
But the female gaze was more than just a sort of a sort of strategic narrative device. It's central to the whole endeavor.
Going again to the original movie and to the original material, but I was very struck by how essentially, I mean, you know, as a woman, as a feminist, to see essentially rape dressed up as seduction, I thought, I don't know how to take that character. I don't know how to want to love that character of Valmont. And so for me, one of the real key sort of challenges and ambitions of this version of Dangerous Liaisons was to really understand how we get to this damaged narcissist that we meet in the novel, and really to understand that journey for him particularly, and to see that as a story of sort of fragile masculinity, was exciting to think maybe there is a way to go with Valmont, and he's a character I think that's very hard not to understand and love now, but also not to take away from the, you know, the danger of him and what he does. But I think we understand why he's driven to do it in the same way that Camille is driven to try and avenge her past, and that obviously impacts on who she is now and how she behaves. But it was always so key that this would be a story driven hugely by a female character that I don't think we've necessarily, well, we definitely haven't had enough of them, but Camille always came in a way fully formed to this space of the past, of her past, as an agent of change and a sort of revolution in herself. And that was always just a real moment where she landed. And then talking about her with Collin, we realized that that is a character who can continue and really embrace the huge changes in time and events of that period of French history.